Chapter 7. Working in the Dark. For 2 weeks, Noah tried to do what his mother told him. He reported to the square after lessons. He kept his head down when Marcus Hale passed. He scrubbed old grease from stone, hauled half-full buckets from the pump line, and swallowed every question that rose in his throat until it sat there like grit. It did not help. Brightmoor had not settled. The rumors about Sector Gamma did not disappear. They sank deeper, into the markets, into the work crews, into the way adults stopped talking when children came too close. Gamma stayed sealed. Vanguard patrols came more often now, their boots marking the causeways at strange hours, always moving toward the lower corridors and never explaining why. The founding families moved too. Hale foremen watched doors that had never needed watching before. Lacy clerks argued over water schedules in voices too polite to be honest. Cutler crews were pulled from ordinary tunnel work and sent lower, their rust-red marks vanishing into routes no one named aloud. Selection week should have been close enough to taste. Instead, the elders kept changing notices, schedules, excuses, safety inspections, anniversary duties, additional Vanguard review. Every new reason sounded thinner than the last. Calla said little about the delay. She said little about anything since the Hale foreman took her handbow. But sometimes, when the square noise thinned and the lower corridors gave off a distant metal groan, Noah caught her looking toward the sealed route signs with her face gone carefully blank. Devrin worked harder than both of them, like effort could scrape humiliation out of stone. He cursed bad tools, corrected Noah's grip, and complained whenever Marcus made them re-clean a spot. By the end of each day, his hands were raw, his knees were gray with dust, and his grin looked almost real again. The three of them were whole again, or close enough to pretend, but pretending was not enough. So, when the workday ended and Brightmoor dimmed toward night, they went where adults forgot to look. Past the old pump corridor, into the forgotten maintenance alcove that belonged to their games. They trained in secret, not because they were ready, because waiting made them feel useless. Noah crouched behind an overturned ore crate, the rough, rusted metal cold against his cheek. The air in the alcove was thick with old grease and the sharp metallic tang of ozone from a nearby conduit. The cool weight of the Vanguard badge Calla had given him pressed against his ribs. Devrin stood across from him with a heavy pipe over one shoulder, breathing hard through his nose like an overworked vent. Grease stained his sleeves, his collar, even the side of his jaw where he must have wiped his face and missed. His neatly cropped hair had come loose on one side, sweat darkening it against his forehead. "For the record," he whispered, "I did not die last round." "You stepped on a mine," Calla said from beside Noah. "Imaginary mine. Still counts. It was under a rag. That's why it worked." Noah bit down on a grin. After each work detail, the forgotten maintenance alcove had been a battlefield, a fortress, a breach zone, and once, because Devrin insisted on it, the royal throne room of the Black Legion's Pipe King. Calla killed the Pipe King in under 10 seconds. Devrin still claimed treason. Today, the enemy was massing beyond the primary conduit. In their games, the enemy was always the Black Legion. Everyone in Brightmoor knew the name, though no one agreed on what they were. Devrin said his father called them raiders with old weapons and worse discipline. Hagen called them proof that some men mistook hunger for freedom. The younger children said they wore black masks because they had no faces underneath. Noah had never known which version scared him more. 2 full squads, advancing hard from the primary conduit, Devrin whispered, lowering his voice until it sounded like gravel in a barrel. "They're trying to flank us." Calla shook her head, a flicker of a smirk on her lips. "They're not advancing, Dev. They're being herded." "By what?" Noah asked. "Something worse than us." Deverin's grin widened. "Impossible." Calla pointed with her chin toward the empty space behind the imaginary enemy. "Look at their formation. Sloppy, panicked. They're not attacking us. They're trying to punch through us to escape." Noah tightened his grip on his bent metal rod. For one breath, it was not a piece of scrap. It was a sword. His sword. He lowered his voice the way he imagined a vanguard commander would. "Then we are the wall." Deverin mouthed the words with him, mocking him. Noah ignored him. "Hold the line." With a shared look, they exploded from cover. Noah made the sound of a plasma bolt under his breath and threw himself sideways. His shoulder clipped the ore crate harder than he meant it to, but Calla was watching, so he turned the stumble into a roll. Deverin roared so loudly a loose pipe rattled overhead, charging with his weapon raised like he planned to cave in the whole Black Legion himself. Calla moved between them both, silent and exact, the only one who made the game look almost real. Her final strike ended with the tip of her scavenged blade pressed against an invisible officer's throat. "Target down," she declared, planting a boot on a broken wooden plank like a conqueror. Noah laughed, the sound echoing off the rock walls as he leaned on his knees to catch his breath. "Not bad," Deverin said between gasps, wiping sweat from his brow. "But your flank was exposed for a second there, Drayden." "I was drawing their fire," Noah shot back. Calla chimed in with a smirk. "He was. Besides, that spin move he used to recover? That was new. You're getting faster, Noah." The direct praise made a flush of heat rise in his cheeks. Calla handed him a small, damp cloth from her pouch. Her fingers brushed his as he took it, light enough that he could have pretended it was an accident. He didn't. Deverin let out a loud, theatrical groan. "Okay, I'm gonna be sick. You two are disgusting." He rolled his eyes. "He was drawing their fire. You're getting faster. The enemy's dead, Dre. You can stop showing off." Calla didn't flinch, just turned her cool gaze on him. "Jealous, Dev? Just because your only move is hit it with the big pipe?" "Hey, it's a good move," Deverin protested. "Name one problem it hasn't solved." "Reading," Noah said. Calla's mouth twitched. Deverin pointed the pipe at him. "Careful, I can solve you." Noah laughed first, then Calla, despite herself, then Deverin loud enough to make the old conduit above them buzz. The last 2 weeks had changed the way they moved around each other. Not loudly, not in any way an adult would notice. But Noah noticed. Deverin took the front because he liked being first through trouble. Calla found the angles, the exits, the places where a smaller body could slip through before anyone thought to block them. Noah watched for the thing everyone else missed, the loose bolt, the strange sound, the door left open half an inch too wide. They had stopped feeling like 3 children pretending at war. "Break," Deverin announced, dropping onto an overturned crate like he'd personally held the breech line. He dug into the satchel at his hip and pulled out a cloth-wrapped bundle. "My father got extra shift rations from the North Pump crew. Real heroic stuff. Try not to weep." Noah sat across from him, lowering himself carefully so his ribs wouldn't complain too loudly. Deverin unwrapped the bundle and divided the contents with solemn importance. 3 strips of salted mushroom leather, 2 hard ration biscuits, and a small wedge of yellowish root cheese that looked like it had survived at least one collapse. Calla eyed it. "That cheese moved." "It settled," Deverin said. "No, it moved." "Then it's fresh." Noah laughed, then winced when the healing split in his lip pulled tight. Calla broke one of the biscuits in half and handed him the thinner piece. "Left side," she said. He looked at her. What? Chew on your left side. Her gaze flicked to his mouth and away again. Unless you want to lose another tooth trying to impress stale bread. Devrin made a face. That tooth story still makes me sick. Calla looked at him over her ration. You ran before the worst of it, and that's what bothers you? Devrin's face changed. Noah looked down at the biscuit. The tooth made a sound, Devrin muttered. Noah rolled the biscuit between his fingers, suddenly aware of the place where Calla's hand had brushed his. You keeping count of all my injuries now? Someone has to, she said too quickly. Devrin looked between them, a grin returning. Calla pointed her ration strip at Devrin without looking. Say one word and I feed you to the cheese. Devrin's grin vanished. Cruel, effective, but cruel. Noah ducked his head to hide the smile tugging at his mouth. For a while they ate in the dim alcove, passing a canteen back and forth. The food was awful. The floor was cold. Somewhere overhead, Brightmoor groaned through another failing cycle of its old lungs. Still, for a few minutes, the world narrowed to Devrin complaining about imaginary poison cheese, Calla pretending not to laugh, and the cool weight of the Vanguard badge making Noah sit a little straighter, like someone had mistaken him for a commander and he was trying not to prove them wrong. Devrin sat with one knee drawn up, shoulders already broader than most men in the Breaker Guild, his calloused hands blackened with old grease, no amount of scrubbing ever seemed to remove. It marked everything he owned: sleeves, cuffs, bootlaces, the strap of his satchel. He could almost pass for someone twice his age until he opened his mouth and argued with cheese. That was Devrin, built like a wall, stained like a machine room, ridiculous as a busted valve. Calla was harder to look at for too long. She was only a year older than Devrin and him, but sometimes her eyes made her seem older than everyone in the room. Noah had started noticing things he used to miss, the way lantern light caught warm gold in her blue eyes when she was serious, the small private smile that touched her mouth when she thought no one was looking, the way she handed him the easier half of a ration and acted like it meant nothing. Here, with them, Noah felt whole, not safe. Brightmoor never let anyone feel safe for long, but close. When the food was gone, Calla gathered the cloth and shook the crumbs into her palm. Devrin wiped his hands on his pants and reached for his pipe, but Calla clicked her tongue. Clean it first. It's a pipe. It's your weapon. It's a pipe pretending to be my weapon. Then pretend better. Devrin groaned, but he obeyed, dragging a rag along the length of the metal with exaggerated misery. Noah took the damp cloth Calla had given him earlier and ran it over his bent rod, wiping away grime and rust flakes until the dull metal showed through in streaks. It was still scrap, still ugly, still nothing like the sword beneath his shirt. But cleaning it made the game feel less like a game. Calla worked on her scavenged blade in silence, careful and exact. She braced it across her knees and drew the cloth along the edge with slow, practiced strokes. Her hand twitched once toward her side, toward the place the handbow no longer hung. Then her fingers closed around the scavenged blade across her knee. The handbow had been clever: bent wire, scavenged wood, a trick of tension and aim. This was different. A sharpened strip of metal wrapped in old cloth at one end. No trigger, no distance. Calla drew her thumb once along the wrapped grip, testing where her hand belonged. Noah watched her hands before he could stop himself. "You're staring," she said. Noah looked away too fast. "I was checking your technique." "My technique?" "For weaknesses." Calla's mouth curved. "Find any?" Devrin leaned over his pipe, delighted. "Please say yes. I want to see what happens." Noah risked a glance back at her. No. Calla held his gaze for half a second, the smirk still there. Smart answer. He was about to answer when a new sound cut through the alcove, a heavy, measured clank. Clank. A shadow fell across the entrance, then another. Noah's rod was suddenly nothing but bent scrap. Devrin lowered his pipe without a sound, all that roaring strength folded back into the body of a boy trying not to be seen. Calla's fingers caught Noah's sleeve for half a second, quick and tight, before she let go. The three of them flattened themselves into the shadows of the alcove. Noah crept to the edge, peering around the corner. His hand went to the badge beneath his shirt without meaning to. The little metal sword pressed cold against his palm. Then the real ones came into view. A full vanguard patrol marched past in perfect unison. Their black and silver armor was scuffed with dust that didn't belong to Brightmoor. The lantern light slid across them without softening a single edge. The causeway froze. Tools stopped mid-swing. Voices cut off. Even the traders went quiet, their hands still on half-counted coins. It was the kind of silence people gave to gods, executions, and things they prayed would pass them by. Noah's chest went tight with a familiar aching awe. One of them, a woman with a faded scar cutting through one eyebrow, met his gaze. For one wild second he wanted her to see him, to recognize something, to know he was meant for more than rusted corridors and pretend wars. But her eyes passed over him without catching, not hostile, not curious, just tired in a way that made his dream feel suddenly childish. Then she looked away, her focus already somewhere far beyond Brightmoor. Just as quickly as they appeared, they were gone, their march fading down the corridor. The settlement came back in pieces, a cough, a mutter, the scrape of a boot. But no one sounded the same. Devrin let out a slow breath. Calla nudged Noah, her voice low. "Still think we're ready to fight the Black Legion?" Devrin gave a weak snort, but it died before it became a laugh. Noah didn't answer right away. He was still picturing the soldier's eyes. The badge under his shirt felt smaller now. "No," he admitted, "but we have to be." Noah packed up slowly, sliding the bent rod through the strap at his back. He gave Devrin a fist bump, then looked to Calla. For a second, he almost said something about the rations, or the biscuit, or the way she'd known which side of his mouth hurt. Instead, he gave her a short nod. "I'm heading back." As Noah turned to leave the alcove, Calla's voice stopped him. "Noah!" He glanced back. Her face was serious again, the teasing gone. "Be smart." He gave a single sharp nod and disappeared into the corridors of Brightmoor, leaving his friends behind in their makeshift fortress. He ducked through the low doorway of their flat, and the boy he'd been in the alcove did not fit through with him. With Calla at his side and Devrin laughing too loud, Noah could almost believe he was already becoming something. Here, beneath the low ceiling and his mother's silence, he was 11 again. Bruised ribs, dirty shirt, a stolen rod by his side. The familiar scent of baking bread and warm metal did little to soothe the tightness in his gut. The vanguard patrol stayed burned behind his eyes. His mother stood at the table with her back to him, hands dusted with flour as she folded dough beneath her palms. She did not look up. "You smell of sweat and rust," she said. "Playing warrior again?" Noah stiffened and dropped his scavenged rod by the door. It hit the floor with a small, ugly clatter. Moments ago it had been a sword. Here, under his mother's eyes, it was bent trash a child had dragged home. "We were just training." "Training," she repeated, the word sounding more like an accusation. She turned, wiping her hands on a cloth. Her eyes moved over the dirt on his clothes, the set of his shoulders, the way he still stood like he expected another blow. "Let me tell you something about the monsters you're so eager to fight," she said. "The loud ones are easy. Teeth, claws, ugly faces, those are almost kind. They tell you what they are." Her eyes held him in place. "The dangerous ones smile first. They offer you exactly what you want and wait for you to thank them." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means these games you play," she said, gesturing toward his scavenged rod with a dismissive flick of her wrist, "prepare you for obvious threats. You're not ready for the ones that greet you as a friend." He looked away, jaw tight. He hated how calmly she could take something bright in him and make it look childish, so he reached for safer ground, something clear, something heroic. "We saw a vanguard patrol." His mother's hands stilled. Flour clung to her knuckles. "The vanguard," she said slowly. Her voice stayed careful, but her fingers pressed into the cloth until the fabric twisted. Something moved behind her eyes. Not fear this time, something colder. "They are a constant, unwelcome reminder." "They were different this time," Noah said. "I mean, I don't know. They weren't just tired. They looked broken." "They are always broken, Noah." His mother turned back to the table and scrubbed at a clean spot with sudden force. "That is the price of their purpose, standing between us and what's up there." The way she said it was supposed to end the conversation. It did not. "What is up there?" he asked, the question he always came back to. She stopped scrubbing. Her shoulders lowered. "It's a graveyard, Noah," she said. "A world we broke, and it's not done digging." "But the vanguard go." His own voice made him flinch, small and childish. "If they can walk the surface, why can't anyone else? Why can't I?" "Because they are not just different, Noah." The words snapped out of her, sharp enough to leave the flat silent. His mother looked at him then, jaw clenched, and for one unguarded second there was something worse in her eyes, like she was already watching him walk somewhere she couldn't follow. "They are a sacrifice," she whispered. Noah shook his head once, hard, like he could knock the word out of the room. "You don't want me to join them," he said, the words a statement, not a question. It was the one thing he could never understand. Every other parent in Brightmoor would weep with pride. His mother looked at him like he was marching toward his own execution. Her expression softened, but the worry in her eyes remained. "I want you to be safe, Noah," she said, her voice dropping back to its quiet, measured tone. "And the safest place for you is here." The word pressed down harder than the ceiling. The four walls of their flat, the low stone overhead, the flower handprints his mother had left on the table. Everything here was close enough to touch, close enough to trap him. She was not only afraid of whatever waited on the surface, she was afraid of the part of him that wanted to meet it. He did not want safe. He wanted the sky. He wanted the truth. He sat there long after his mother turned away, the silence between them crowded with everything neither of them would say. The air was warm with stove fuel, baking bread, and flour dust. The wall lantern flickered, throwing long shadows across the rough stone. Then the light sputtered. It thinned to a weak orange thread, held for one stubborn second, and vanished. Darkness swallowed the room. The low hum of Brightmoor's failing grid was gone, a sound so constant he almost never noticed it, and now its absence filled the flat. Noah's hand twitched toward the table, searching for the edge before he could stop himself. His mother let out a quiet sigh from across the room. "Again?" she muttered, the word holding no surprise, only a deep, abiding exhaustion. Noah groaned, slumping in his chair. "How long do you think it'll be this time?" Her boots made a soft scuff on the stone floor as she felt her way toward a wooden shelf. A moment later came the rhythmic grinding sound of a hand crank being turned. A dim orange glow bloomed in the center of the room, weak but welcome, pushing the oppressive darkness back to the corners. She set the hand-cranked lantern on the table between them. "Could be a few minutes," she said, her face half hidden in the flickering shadows. "Could be all night. Either way, we manage." The hand-cranked lantern cast their shadows, huge and distorted, against the stone walls. In the weak, flickering light, the fine lines of exhaustion around his mother's eyes seemed deeper. "If we were in a deeper sector, this wouldn't happen," he muttered, the complaint old and familiar. "Their grids are stable." "And if we were in a deeper sector," his mother countered, "we wouldn't have access to half the supplies we get from the upper trade routes." She moved away from the shelf, her steps sure and unhesitating in the near-total blackness. He had seen her do it 100 times, navigating there flat as if the room whispered its shape to her. Her hands never fumbled. Candle, striker, chipped holder, one after another. Exactly. It was so familiar, so much a part of his mother, that he had never questioned it. She sat back down at the table, her expression unreadable in the dance of the two competing lights. She watched him for a moment, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the encroaching shadows at the edge of the candlelight. "Does the dark bother you, Noah?" she asked, her voice low and steady. He did not answer, just kept scowling. Her eyes met his across the table, and they held that same strange, sad intensity from before. "The heroes you dream of," she said, "they don't just work in the dark. They carry it. They stand there burning bright enough to make every hungry thing look their way, so the rest of us can keep pretending we're safe." Noah crossed his arms and turned away from her gaze. He stared into the small, struggling candle flame as the sounds of the failing settlement crept back in. The darkness was everywhere. He just hadn't realized it could wear a uniform.